Starting things off, we have the first officially licensed game, The Empire Strikes Back. The game was praised over its clean graphics for the time, and drew in a respectable player base due to it focusing on one of the most memorable moments in the movie, the defense of Hoth's Echo Base. As much as the game received love, however, it was also criticized for its simple gameplay as well as the fact that you literally could not win. Regardless of mixed reviews, it sold well enough to warrant more titles in the future. An amped-up action platformer, Super Star Wars closely follows the events of Episode 4, but rather than going for a one-shot experience like past titles, great detail was put into the game to ensure it would be successful and allow for a complete trilogy covering all of the movies. With breathtaking pixel art, fluid controls, and a ton of gameplay features and replayability, it's no wonder this game and its sequels covering Episodes 5 and 6 respectively were a huge success. A sequel to X-Wing, which focused on the Rebel pilot experience in Episode 4, TIE Fighter contains the adventures of an Imperial pilot between Episodes 5 and 6. The gameplay was similar at its core, but had great differences due to the ship's different designs. There were triple the number of levels and a greatly increased number of ships to choose from. Upgrades to the render engine allowed for more realistic shading. A new version of the game engine allowed for more ships to be displayed and interacted with at once, and additional enhancements made to the AI created a complex and challenging experience with optional difficulty sliders. Heavily considered to be one of the greatest and most game-changing titles in video game history, it's not hard to see why the game has been re-released many times. Following the outstanding success of Doom and its many unofficial Star Wars-related mods, came the official release of Dark Forces. What is, at first glance, yet another Doom clone, is actually an incredibly sophisticated and complex game for the time. Thanks to the engine that was specifically designed to create a series of these games, meaning that the team were designing for the future, the game was an instant hit even in the oversaturated FPS market due to features that were not common at the time. From fully detailed levels consisting of multiple sectors, bridges, and multi-story buildings, which were not available in Doom and its many clones, all the way to the ability to look up and down rather than just left and right, the game was a true revolution in the FPS genre. Largely regarded as one of the best games of all time, Knights of the Old Republic is the first RPG in the franchise. With an unbelievable level of lore and rich story to discover regarding the Old Republic era loved by fans, as well as deep and intricate gameplay systems that allow for a lot of freedom and replayability, it is truly no wonder this game was a massive success and put the developers BioWare on the map. Originally Jedi Knight 3, a game that would end the story of Kyle Katarn for good, possibly with his death, Jedi Academy is what we got instead. The final entry in the Jedi Knight series, and the only title in which you don't play as Katarn himself, Jedi Academy took a lot of brave risks that fortunately paid off. Being able to decide everything from the force powers you use to the fighting styles you learn and the light or dark path you walk down throughout the plot, the game gives you complete freedom and immerses you in a deep and compelling story. With what is by far the most in-depth gameplay in the series, what is often referred to as the best lightsaber combat in any Star Wars game even to this day, and an amazing multiplayer that still has community-made mods like Movie Battles 2 running for over 17 years, it's clear to see how this game was and still is such a huge success and loved by fans. Closely following the movie for the most part, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith is a relatively straightforward action game, having you play through different levels from the movie. Some of its levels include content or entire sections that were cut from the final film, however, and it has an alternate ending that, well, let's just say it puts a pretty big twist on the events of Episode 4, 5, and 6. Where the game really sets itself apart, though, is in its immense replayability and hidden features. Finding bonus power-ups throughout the game unlocks concept art used to create both finalized and scrapped sections of the movie, which at the time was an amazing inclusion as these were heavily demanded and rarely supplied features. Each time you completed a boss fight against a lightsaber duelist, you'd unlock them for use in co-op missions, as well as an offline dueling mode wherein you can duel a friend on a second controller or face off against an AI duelist. On top of all of this amazing content, the game also had bonus levels that were both action and duel-based that were unlocked through challenges and game progression. For being a movie tie-in yet so rich with content and bonus features, it's no wonder this game sold exceptionally well. Following the success of the original Battlefront, the decision was made to make a far more expensive sequel, with more maps for both ground and space battles, revamped and new modes, and a full single-player story that tied in with the prequels. The story aspect was extremely well done, having you play as a clone trooper in the 501st Legion from the very start of the Clone Wars, going through incredibly gritty and true-to-form battles and encounters, all the way to the rise of the Galactic Empire. As you go through each encounter, thoughts and feelings are read from the clone's journal, describing how he really felt about betraying the Jedi and serving the new Empire. As a bonus to this already amazing story, these notes are actually narrated by the original voice actor for Jango Fett himself, Temuera Morrison. With a multiplayer that blew users away and is still being played regularly to this day, 25 maps spanning every movie in the saga, and a backlog of hundreds of community-made mods that continue to breathe life into the game, it's a shock that its sequel was never released. Swearing to end the perceived mediocrity of past RTS games in the franchise, like Galactic Battlegrounds, developers Petroglyph started from the ground up when creating Empire at War. The game was pushing the limits with high-end graphical effects, like soft shadows, specular lighting, and particle effects that brought the game to the next level. It also brought with it a revolutionary shift in gameplay to focus more on realism and high-level management, as well as had a massive amount of content, with 18 planets, 20 units, and 28 missions. Though this was already the best RTS game in the franchise by a long shot, it was made even better by the fact that it was partly open source, meaning that from release day, there were already plenty of community-made mods available for download, and that is still true today, with there now being hundreds readily available. It's pretty safe to say that with the game still enjoying a fairly stable player base to this day, Petroglyph's vision was fully realized, and they truly succeeded in doing Star Wars RTS fans justice. After finding insane success with 2 separate LEGO titles based on the prequel and original trilogies, LucasArts and Traveller's Tales made the decision to sell them together as an enhanced collection under the title The Complete Saga. With a couple bonus levels that were cut from the original games, and a huge overhaul of graphics such as HD textures, higher detailed models, upgrades to depth of field and blooming, and much more, the collection was clearly worth buying again, and many clearly did, with both newcomers entering the series for the first time, as well as fans of the existing games picking up the re-release. Widely regarded as one of the most unique, ambitious, and greatest Star Wars games of all time is The Force Unleashed. putting you in control of Galen Merrick, a child strong in the Force stolen by Vader and trained as a secret apprentice. The game does a great job at telling a compelling and emotional story that truly makes you feel like you are in control of a movie. With fluid and devastating lightsaber combos, paired with a spectacular and beautiful Force power system that can be used simultaneously during combat, alongside customization of outfits and lightsaber color, as well as the ability to upgrade your preferred Force powers to increase their strength, range, and efficiency, the game had a revolutionary and outstandingly smooth combat system. It is worth noticing that the prior gen, meaning PS2, and past gen, PS3 versions of the title are very different in gameplay, and they're both equally worth checking out, with the fanbase pretty divided over which version is better. All of this, paired with its 50 unique enemy types keeping you on your toes at all times, and the constant choice for players between stealth or slashing their way through waves of enemies, led the game to become an instant hit and a long-term favorite of fans. The second and most recent MMORPG in the franchise following Star Wars Galaxies and its 2011 server shutdown, The Old Republic is yet another classic led by BioWare, creators of the Knights of the Old Republic series. The game is set 300 years after the KOTOR series, and along with its launch came a huge multimedia project of books, short stories, and comics to help fill in the lore of the Old Republic era that the game took place in. The game has 8 unique classes shared between the Galactic Republic and Sith Empire factions, which you can choose between and proceed to customize your skill tree as you progress throughout the game. Speaking of gameplay, it's your standard MMORPG affair, but BioWare felt the genre lacked a complete experience with a compelling and deep story, so that's where they placed their focus. With well over 1,500 hours of story-related content, and plenty of multiplayer events on a regular basis even almost a decade after release, it's safe to say that not only have BioWare met their goal, but have soared past it and fully fleshed out an entire section of the Star Wars universe. Promising to deliver the ultimate Star Wars battle experience, DICE, creators of the Battlefield franchise, instead delivered a great deal of disappointment. There was no more content in the final game than there was available in the Early Access Open Beta. This infuriated fans, and the announcement of a $50 season pass before the game had even come out that you would have to pay for in order to receive future content certainly did not help in any way. This poor handling is actually a great shame, because the game itself at its core had a lot of potential, with great gameplay and controls, stunning graphics, and sound design so good that you were fully immersed in this Star Wars experience that ultimately left you feeling unfulfilled. A game that was demolished by deserved backlash upon its launch, Battlefront 2 has had a legendary comeback over the last few years. With many heroes and maps added in free content updates, the addition of the new mode Supremacy, and all the other multiplayer goodies that have been provided, the game has certainly redeemed itself. It's also worth noting that the single-player story is actually part of Disney's official canon timeline, and so is its free DLC, which honestly aren't that bad. Proving EA wrong with their statement that consumers don't want single-player games through its insane sales of over 10 million units so far is Jedi Fallen Order. Setting up an entirely new story with brand new characters, you think it would be hard to create a gripping and jaw-dropping adventure after it's been done dozens of times before in the Star Wars universe. With straightforward gameplay and addictive lightsaber combat, breathtaking visuals, flawless sound design that made you feel like you were actually in a Star Wars movie, as well as many upgrades and collectibles, customization of your lightsaber, lightsaber color, outfits, and vehicle paint jobs, this game proved to be exactly what was needed to restore hope in EA's handling of the Star Wars license. With a sequel already on the way in just a few years, it's clear to see why players enjoyed the game so much, with some going as far as comparing its revitalization of the franchise to classic games that did the same, like TIE Fighter, Dark Forces, and The Force Unleashed.